Great. Hello, Justin. How are you doing?
I'm great, thanks. Thanks for having me today.
Thank you for joining me on this fabulous Friday. We're going to, as always on Friday, a whistle-stop tour of 5 habits that you think are really important to people in business. But first, we need to introduce you. So, you said to introduce you as an entrepreneur. So, tell me what makes you an entrepreneur.
I find it very difficult. Many years ago, I used to say to people, introduce me as the struggling entrepreneur, but I feel I've graduated, so I can actually be called an entrepreneur now. I mean, my day job is running an accountancy firm called Orange Umbrella. And that's where I spend most of my time doing work for Orange Umbrella. But I teach for a local university. I teach entrepreneurship. I teach innovation. I teach finance on the Help to Grow government-backed education program. I'm FD at a lettings agency and I'm a published business author as well. So it's quite difficult to describe me. So I always say to people, just entrepreneur. That's the best way to do it.
Yeah. Cool. And it's that book that caught my interest and why we have the questions today, the 5 habits of science in business. So today you're going to give us 5 habits that people can apply to how they think about business, how they lead, their habits. So we don't want to waste people's time. It's a Friday afternoon. So what is habit number 1?
Well, habit number 1, in my opinion as well, is I think you should innovate something every single day. I think it's really important that it was a client left me a Google review saying that we were a really innovative business. And I'd not really thought about it. I mean, innovation is one of the things I teach at university. I get people coming from the police, for example. There's some of the cohorts that we get in and trying to teach them about how they can innovate. And I've got students from the NHS. And it actually makes you really think about how do you take something as an idea and actually make a success out of it. And it's not to say I make a success out of everything, but actually since teaching innovation, I've become a lot better at innovating. In particular, actually looking at people's perspectives. There's a huge amount of science in that. It's just because me as the business owner thinks it's a good idea doesn't necessarily mean it's going to translate into a good idea. And all of a sudden you start asking your staff, you ask your customers, you ask your clients, you ask other stakeholders, investors, whoever it happens to be, and they see that idea in totally a different way. And you become really innovative. Your innovations become much better fundamentally. But I think you should innovate something every day, but do it properly.
So what is that? What's your most recent practical example of you doing a bit of innovation then in your business? What have you done? What can you tell us about?
Do you want a successful one or a not so successful one?
Either, actually, because I'm a subscriber of like Innovate, and if it doesn't work, get rid of it. So whichever you think stands out the most for you most recently.
Well, I think we're always innovating, and I'm really, really passionate about it. So we're always tweaking stuff. And one of the most interesting, in my opinion, interesting areas of innovation is process innovation. I know this might sound dull as dishwater, but we have a form that we get our clients to fill in, or well, we can fill it in ready for them, asking them loads of questions. And it's quite interesting. We call them tax return questionnaires. I mean, how interesting is this? But if you think about a tax return, it is full of all of these kind of different permutations. Everyone is different. So by creating this sort of checklist type form, we've actually created this innovation where we can understand the client and kind of create a visual map of the client, how they're set up, what sort of investments they've got, how they're employed, are they self-employed, all of these sorts of things, and give them the right advice at the right time. And that's just process. But we're constantly tweaking that document all of the time. And it's amazing when you start breaking down innovations into things like that. How can a form make a big difference? I actually think it's one of the things that sets us apart from our competition, is that it's a very closely guarded secret, and we never give the form to the clients because we don't want our competitors getting their hands on it.
Nice. And when you say form, you're not talking about a paper form, are you? This is
no. It's all on an iPad with an Apple Pencil, and that's an innovation in itself. Moving away from a paper-based form, which is what we did originally, and moving it on to something like an iPad, that is a process change, and that is an innovation. It's a tiny thing, really, but actually all of a sudden you're changing the way the business works, because no longer are we scanning a document in and having to manually email it. You can just email it from the device. It brought in things like innovations to creating formulaic pricing as well. So depending on how you fill the form in depends on the pricing structure. So it removed me from the pricing of the jobs. I just give it to a colleague and he knows exactly how to price the jobs based on the answers on the form. All of these things are innovations.
Yeah, amazing. Brilliant. Okay, so if that's habit number one,
habit
number two, what's that?
I think habit number two for me is being data driven. I am a tremendously numeric type person where I just love looking at numbers, basically. And I think if you're in business, whether you're a manager or a business owner, you're just surrounded by numbers fundamentally, and it's using those numbers. Like I like time data is particularly interesting to me. How have you spent your time during a day? And what are the team who work for me? I encourage them to track their time and look at what's taking up time. Looking at your management accounts, profit and loss, your balance sheets. I always say to clients, make sure you look at your profit and loss, and they're like, "Oh, why is that important, Justin?" Well, there's only three ways you can actually make more money. You can sell more, you can increase prices, or you can cut costs. Profit and loss is going to tell you all sorts of information about your business and whether you can do those things. But go look at data. I mean, things like email marketing data. How many people open your email newsletter? Compare one newsletter to the next newsletter. Why did one get better results than the other? And constantly bring these sort of tweaks and bits of information and be guided by that data. It's really interesting what it can do for you.
Amazing. Okay, brilliant. Cool. And what's the favorite bit of data you've ever come across? What's the thing that's made you go, "Oh my God, I need to change something"?
I've always used this example is many years ago, we timed how long it took to open a purchase invoice that had arrived in the post. Like literally from opening the envelope to putting it in the file, entering it into the account system, approving it. How long did that take? And that led us to taking on a piece of invoice scanning software where it would do some of the data entry for you. And we asked our suppliers to send emails in. It's probably a bit of an old example, but actually it's amazing how much time it saved, because you just suddenly realize that we're processing, up to 5,000 pieces of paper, sometimes in a week. How can you get through that sort of information? And especially some of our clients, they've got fairly sizable businesses and they're processing lots and lots of receipts from different people with company cards and all of that sort of stuff. You've got to bring it all together. And it's game changing if you can find that sort of information from time data. Yeah,
I love it. And I guess that almost falls back into number one. So you find something you want to change and then you innovate what you do with it.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Awesome. Yeah. Okay, so what's number three then? What habit are we looking at now?
Number three, I think you've got to have a bit of fun every day at work. I think it's really important. People say to me, like, you must really love your job, Justin. I do love my job, but I'm not too serious about anything. What's the point in being serious about stuff? I have a laugh and a giggle with the team. I think there's especially in teams of people, there's this sort of ethos that the manager is up here and the people are down here. It's none of that nonsense. Have a bit of crack with them. Oh, did you drink too much down the pub? Or I bet you didn't win at the pool competition, or whatever it is. Those moments are important to kind of gel people together. And I think you've got to find the opportunities to have a bit of fun at work as well. It's important.
Yeah. I suppose that goes back to endorphins, though, doesn't it? Like in the news a couple of days ago, there was something about daughters talking to mothers and the endorphins they get from talking rather than texting.
Yeah. I think you've got to find your passion.
So I bet that goes back to almost the endorphins at work in terms of actually people enjoying it. In the news the other day was an article about mothers messaging their daughters, And there's a difference between text messaging and talking. And I can imagine that actually just having a laugh at work gives you that a little bit of endorphins where you're having a laugh, and it makes you want to repeat that.
Yeah.
Whereas if you're just
I mean, one of the interesting things that I try to instill in my team is, why is work worthwhile and important? Because I think some people, especially the younger kind of members of the team coming in, they maybe just left school and they're coming in as an apprenticeship. Why is the work that they're doing important? And I think that can lead to a huge amount of stuff. You can become really passionate about something, so it increases your enjoyment, and you can have fun with that. Because one of the greatest things is, to have the really special relationship with your client, and knowing what's going on in their lives and everything like that, and understanding what you're doing. But as a result, you can be a bit more relaxed with them, and the trust is two-way. So I'm forever having a bit of a laugh and a giggle with the clients that come in. I'm very relaxed about it, and I encourage the team to do that as well.
Yeah, amazing, brilliant. Okay, so 3 down. What is number 4?
I think I've talked there just quite a lot about teams of people. So number 4 is build a team and work on your team. The habit has to be to work on the team that you've got around you. I have so many people come and see me, just clients that may be small one-man operations or one-woman operations, and they're like, I don't want to take on any staff. That's so risky. Like, you can't operate your business. What happens if something happens to you? What happens if you need to go into hospital for an operation and you're out of action for 2 months? Actually, having a team of people behind you makes the business much more secure. It makes it safer. It means income's not going to disappear overnight. But that requires a constant habit of, pumping knowledge and information and mentoring. And I try to do something every single day with someone in my team to make them better. So our weekly meeting, a new innovation I've just brought in is we're going to have a 5-minute training on something. So this week we're doing customer service, because we've had a couple of difficult conversations. Like, members of staff have had a few difficult conversations with clients, whether it be surprise tax bills, or we see the best and the worst in people's lives. Someone's got cancer and they're going to die. They're really difficult conversations to have. So identifying that, and rather than running away from it, the idea is to bring that training into what we're doing. And the next training I've got lined up is on pension allowances. I mean, we know how to rock and roll and have fun at work, don't we? But
but it's really important to think about that. Actually, the team is the backup for your business, especially in that growth stage. And and if you can't do it or don't know how to do it, maybe that's the habit or the science that you need to work on. Is that how do I learn to write down the thing that's in my head? Because that might be the thing you just can't do. So you then need to learn how to do it.
I think teams of people require a whole different skill set. They are not just numbers on a page. And I think big businesses have been, held to account over that sort of mentality. Just seeing people as numbers. The people who work for me, especially in a small business, they're the lifeblood of the business. But it requires things like understanding psychology, making them understand that work is worthwhile and important. Why is that actually even important? Making sure people have got the right support, like health and well-being. You can't flog people to death. That's just it's not going to work in the long run. It's all going to collapse. Your staff turnover will be very, very high. And touch wood, my staff turnover is incredibly low, because I've invested a huge amount of time, and I worry about it all of the time. What am I doing for the team? How can I help them? And it's just part of that habit that I'm in now, just to try and coach and mentor every single day.
Yeah. Well, yeah. From what you tell me and what I know, I think you're probably doing a very good job. And those people maybe leaving for more exciting adventures, maybe. So,
I hope I do.
What is this 5th habit that we can talk about today?
The 5th habit is, I think it's to simplify complexity. We live in the most complex world now. Everything is so complex and difficult. And, I think we've got into this habit assuming that everything needs to be complicated. There is a myriad of things that require my attention every day.
Mm.
The government like to threaten me on a daily basis with some form of penalty or, jail time or whatever it happens to be for something or other. Because if you think about it, actually, you open up a letter from the government. If you don't do this within a certain amount of time, you will get £100 penalty, or even get less than £1,000 penalty. It can be all really worrying, and the complexity in it. So I think you've just got to break things down to try and make them less complicated. Do you need to do that? Is there a simpler way of doing it? We had it was a prime example today. I was so proud of one of the members of my team. We had the IT support company out who were brilliant, really clever people. But we had this problem with the way the phone systems were working. And the IT people just racked their brains. They couldn't think about how we were going to solve this problem. And then one of the fairly-ish junior members of the team basically said, well, actually, this member of the team doesn't really get any DDI phone calls, so why don't we hook that up to the group, and then that number will ring and we'll always know it's a group number. That was the fundamental problem.
Yeah.
It didn't require any IT skills. It just required a simple solution. But the IT people just couldn't stop thinking without a complex solution to a problem. There are so many things. I wrote in my book a great chapter called The Power of the Moon, and that's about a principle called Occam's razor, which is about quite often the simplest solution is the best solution.
Yeah.
It's the old example. If a tree's fallen down, the most logical is probably the wind has blown it down. That's the simplest explanation, rather than a UFO has crashed into it and knocked it over, which I think people I see it every day. They're just trying to make things more and more complicated. They're looking for more complicated explanations. So break it down, keep it simple, try to, get through especially government and legislative complexities really quickly and simply, rather than trying to make them more complicated and make them more than they are. So yes, that would be my fifth one.
Amazing, brilliant. Okay, that is loads to take in. So to recap them at the end. So number one was, let me see if I've got these. So number one was innovate. So innovate every day.
Yep.
Then we've got be data driven is number two.
Yep.
Yeah, cool. And number three was, was it?
Are you having fun, Michael?
Are you having fun? Yes, are you having fun? And then, are you having fun with your team? Would be number four. Yeah. And then
building a team as well.
Building a team.
Invest in your team. The habits.
Yeah. But I think that is like a real, and a team now might be something a bit different. It might be a freelancer or something like that, because the growth of freelancers out there, you no longer need to employ someone 5 days a week, do you? Actually, there's someone who will come and do the 4 hours work, and you can pay them for the 4 hours, and it's well worth it.
Yeah, absolutely.
And that almost goes into the last one, the keep it simple, right? Yeah, you don't need to fabricate another 4 days work to pay someone. Just pay someone for the 4 hours work, and then they'll do a great job.
Absolutely.
Okay, brilliant. That is everything. Now, you've told me you've got a book coming down the line. Do you want to tell us very briefly about this book, your second book? You've got
my second book. Yes, my first book. I'll very quickly tell you the first, but the first book's called The Science of Business. And it takes these fun little ideas from science and how you can apply them to the business world. And that was quite a fun book to write, because it's little stories from my life. So I talk about doing triathlon in there, and my beetroot juice drinking habits. But the second book is called 10 Ideas to Save 10% in 10 Minutes. It's a short little book, so you can read each chapter in about 10 minutes. And the idea is it's going to save you 10%. So in a world ravaged by inflation, we're all keen to save a bit of money. So yes, and that's going to launch on the 18th of March.
Amazing. And you know what? We actually have 5 minutes. So would you like to give us one of your 10? I've not asked you this before. Is there one of the 10 you'd like to share to finish the call with?
Oh, God, you've really put me on the spot here, haven't you, Michael?
Yeah.
Oh, gosh, right. I'll give you the one where I start the book with. I think it's got to be smart locks. It's something that I put in at home, and you're thinking, what the hell is this man on about? But you don't realize how much time you spend. You spend about, people on average spend about 2.5 days looking for stuff that they've lost. And then my kids, you know, my eldest son, I've lost my key to the house. Like, you're having a giraffe, aren't you? But, you know, and then I've mislaid my key somewhere. The wife left the key in the front door once and went off to work. You know, all of these sorts of things. Actually, smart lock. I just walk to the front door, put my thumbprint on, and I'm in. But it saved so much time. Letting tradespeople in, cleaners, I forgot to feed the cat one weekend, and I just gave, you know, could issue a code to one of the neighbors to get in the house to feed the cat. I mean, it's just so convenient. It's almost like frictionless. And I've got a keyless car as well. So it's really liberating leaving the house with no keys whatsoever.
Okay. Yeah. Amazing. Brilliant. Okay. On that, I will leave you to it. Thank you so much. Enjoy the rest of your Friday. Thank you for your time.
Okay.
Cheers. Bye.
Bye.